ladies and gentlemen, teachers, do not leave yet. We're still in the third session of the day, and this session is about English exams, and we're going to look at innovation in English and exams. And we have three speakers today joining us. The first one is from the British Council. Please welcome James Cleere, the Manager, English Language Service, British Council. James, time is yours.
Thank you very much, and selamat sore semua, and good morning to everybody in the UK. So let me just quickly share my slides. Okay. All right, please let me know if you can see that now.
Yes, we can see, but it's not in a presentation mode.
Let's get it up. Okay, up now?
Yes.
Great. So thank you once again. So as you mentioned, I'm from the British Council, but specifically I'm from the British Council Indonesia Foundation. So this is the part of the British Council in Indonesia that is responsible for the delivery of our teaching products and then our assessment products and our exams throughout Indonesia. So obviously we're part of the broader British Council, which I mean, hopefully we're all familiar with. I mean, with the organizer of this event as a whole, but specifically I'm going to sort of today talk about our teaching products and our exams and sort of how we've reacted to the pandemic and the innovations that we've had to introduce over the last 18 months or so. Okay, so moving on. So first of all, I'd like to talk a little bit about our teaching products and again, how we've had to innovate in many cases and during that time. So one of the first things I want to talk about is how we transition to online learning. As with many institutions around the world, you know, we had to move very, very quickly from what for us was a largely face-to-face teaching business, where nearly all of our students were coming to our centres for classes, and move that to an online offer as quickly as possible. You know, it was very important to all of our students that they could continue to learn with us, that they weren't having significant breaks in their study. So we worked very, very hard and very, very quickly to move all of those classes online. And, you know, because again, it's live learning, so we wanted to obviously make sure that they're getting a comparable experience to what they were already receiving in the classroom. And there were sort of three key areas where we worked on to sort of achieve that, and in some ways to provide additional benefits. So because we are part of a regional and a global network, one of the things that we established, as all of the countries in the region were having the same problem, of course, is to establish regional hubs of our teachers. And this meant that students could actually join classes that weren't just run by the British Council Indonesia, but that were run by any British Council Indonesia within the whole region. So this actually gave them a much greater choice of classes, much greater flexibility. I mean, it also meant that they were able to join classes with a much wider range of learners as well. So learners coming from all over East Asia, which again, a lot of our students have said since then that they really appreciate and they really like as part of that online learning experience. The other area was training. So again, a lot of our teachers did not have experience of online teaching at that time. So we very quickly sort of developed training materials for those that did have that experience. And as we learned more from that experience, we were constantly updating those training materials and, you know, making sure that we were regularly giving all of our teachers access to those training materials and giving them new training to ensure that they were able to really get the most out of the online classes. So making sure they were using things like breakout rooms, learning new ways and new techniques of maximizing interaction between students and sort of, again, making sure that the experience for the students was very, very comparable to what they were experiencing in the classroom before. And then the third part of that was around sort of development of some of the technologies that we were using. So we already had an online booking system for our students in terms of how they joined classes and booked classes, sort of even in a face-to-face manner, but it was then sort of making sure that we updated those so that then students are using the same way to book their classes, whether they're coming for a face-to-face class in a teaching centre or whether they're joining that class online. And then it also means that we can now move our operation sort of from an online to a face-to-face business back again, if necessary, very quickly. And from the student's point of view, they're accessing all of their classes in the same way that they were before. And then again, in terms of teaching, we also launched a range of new digital products as well. So all of these were probably in development before the pandemic, but I think obviously, you know, the pandemic really accelerated our need for these. And so we were able to launch all of these. I mean, some of these were already available before the pandemic, but the rest of these were launched mostly sort of by about sort of September last year, and we're continuing to update and even launch new products as well this year. But I think again, when we're looking at these, again, it's really trying to take advantage of the fact that they are an online product. So there's a mixture of live synchronous learning and self-access materials. And one of the differences, for example, if it's a purely online product, and I think as some people have mentioned in their previous talks, is having a slightly more blended experience. So those live classes are actually shorter than what you would get in a face-to-face sort of experience, but where you're doing slightly more work either before or after class to supplement it in a self-access way. And one of the other key things for us is maintaining flexibility. So again, you know, because it's online, it's even more flexible to meet all of the needs of our students, but also as well, we want to make sure that they're getting regular reporting on their progress so that they can see how they're doing and how can they assess, and also to enable us to monitor that as well, sort of how people are engaged in classes, make sure we're sort of clear about how engaged our students are, that they are happy, that they're getting a really good experience, and making those changes if necessary. So that's sort of the innovations in our teaching. Now I'd like to talk a little bit about our exams. And before I go on to the innovations, just to give you a very quick overview of the three main exams that we now offer. All of these are available in Indonesia as well as globally. And sort of they go from English score to aptis to IELTS, and sort of as you go along that line, you're sort of increasing the stakes, if you like, of those exams. So English score is something that you can do on your mobile phone, and it's a test that's often used for self-improvement, but it can also be used to prove your English proficiency level to an employer or even to an institution. Or it can be used as sort of a way to prepare for IELTS as well. One of the key differences between this and the other two tests here is that this is sort of, at the moment at least, this is a receptive test, so there's no speaking component at the moment, there's no writing component at the moment. The next of these is aptis, and this is very often used by organisations to measure the English language proficiency of their own employees, including actually in some countries for the British Council as well. So often when we recruit staff, they take an aptis test as a way of sort of indicating their English level, so we're confident that sort of all the staff that we're employing have the required language levels. And again, this one is all four skills that are tested as part of this, so there is a dedicated writing and speaking component here. And then next, IELTS, which is the highest stake of these tests, and probably the one that most people are familiar with. So this is sort of accepted internationally by a large number of universities, but also by UK Visa and Immigration, for example. So this is sort of known as a secure English language test, and can be used for both study and migration purposes. And then in the innovations in these, and move on, in a way, sort of the higher stake the test is, in some ways, sort of the less the amount of innovation that's possible, but there is still innovation in all three of these tests. So in particular, English score. So as I mentioned, this is a test that you can take on your mobile phone. And at present, certainly as far as we're aware, it's the only mobile test that you can take on your phone that is also proctored. And by proctored, we mean that there is a degree of verification that the person taking the test is the person who says they're taking the test. So again, if, for example, an employer wants to use this as a way of sort of testing their employees' English level, or if you want to take the test as a way to prove to a future employer your English level, you know, there is this verification that happens, so that you can prove that it's you that's taking the test, this is truly your English level, and you can get a professional certificate as part of that as well. And then again, the main innovation with aptis was again around proctoring. So traditionally, aptis was a test that you had to take sort of in a centre in person at a sort of authorised computer. But now there's the opportunity to take APTIS in a variety of places. And we worked very hard to ensure that it is a reliable test. So by introducing this proctoring, so again, you've got things like real-time verification, desktop recording, 360-degree room scanning, all of these things to make sure that again, for example, if you're an employer who wants to use this as a way to verify your employees' English level, that you're very, very confident that it is the right person taking the test. And then finally with IELTS, so perhaps less innovation possible here because of the fact it is a secure English language test and used by people like UK Visa and Immigration. Nonetheless, there's definitely sort of ways that we have worked to improve the test and sort of innovate in under the circumstances of the last sort of 18 months. So now in Indonesia, we're exclusively delivering IELTS on computer, which means that you get much faster results. And we also introduced an element of the test called IELTS indicator. So this was particularly important last year when a large number of countries were not able to deliver IELTS tests because of lockdowns and sort of various restrictions around the world, including in Indonesia. So at times, for example, if it's not possible to take an IELTS test because of lockdowns and because of COVID restrictions that are in place, then we do offer what we call IELTS indicator, which is sort of essentially the same test, but that you can take from your own home, and this can then be used by universities, for example, to again sort of gain entry onto their courses and that kind of thing. Although depending on the situation, whether or not it's available for things like getting visas will depend on the UK visa. But certainly there was a period last year where that was the case. But at the very least, so for example, if you can't travel to the UK for university study, but you can do your course online, then IELTS indicator can be an option for you to get that test as well. And another thing that we are introducing now is video call speaking. So this is for the speaking part of the test. So one of our goals is to try and get as many test centres around Indonesia as possible and to really increase the reach of this so that people who are not in, Jakarta or other parts of Java still have the opportunity to take the test without having to sort of travel to one of those very, very large cities. And this means that we can do this, and then the speaking part is now done through video call. So we can do this without having to send examiners sort of all over Indonesia, which makes it far more difficult and far less practical to do that. And then finally, those last two are sort of upcoming things as well. And these are ways that will be easier for people to prepare for the test. So IELTS Learner Pathways will be a way that you can sort of, as you're booking your test, you can easily see a wide range of sort of preparation materials that are available to you, including Speak Up, which is a way that you can test your spoken sort of language in particular before you go and take your test. So hopefully that's sort of a quick overview of those innovations we've made in both teaching and examinations. And thank you very much.
Thank you, James, for your presentation. I'm sure teachers are familiar with IELTS. I see a lot of people ask questions yesterday as well about it. Unfortunately, we do not have question and answer session in this last session. But teachers, I hope you learn from this presentation. We now go to our next speaker. I would like to invite Alan Davenport from Cambridge University Press and Assessment. Alan Davenport is the Professional Learning and Development Manager for Cambridge University Press and Assessment in the Asian region. If you're familiar with the batik, he's actually wearing a batik from Mirota. Is that right, Alan?
It is Mirota batik. I can't speak Bahasa Indonesian so well, but I love wearing the clothing. So okay. I hope that's okay.
Over to you, Alan.
Perfect. And I have 10 minutes, everybody. So just to make sure that you can hear me and that you're with me, can I get 10 people to type the number 10 in the chat box? I just want to make sure that you're still with me. So I'm not going to start until I see 10 people type the number 10. I see you, Eddie. I see you, Sonia. Thank you so much. I see you, Rennie. I see you, Di. Okay. I see you, Nick. I see you, Anton. I see you, Wen. Thank you so much. Donna, Steffi. Fantastic. All right. You're with me. So I'm going to talk today about, innovations in English and exams, but I really want to make sure, you see that parentheses there that's English and exams and assessment, because I want to make sure people remember I work for Cambridge University Press and Assessment, not Cambridge University Press and Tests, because we really think that innovations in assessment, which includes but is not limited to exams, is very important. So since I only have 10 minutes, like you've all reminded me in the chat, I thought I'd just jump right in. I think when we think of innovations, we go immediately to technology. And indeed, recently we have had a lot of technological enhancements with our exams. Different exams, different degrees of technological enhancements. But I think one of the things that I could demonstrate some technological enhancements with is with our LinguaSkill exam, which we bill as the accurate English test with fast results. And it uses a lot of innovation because we have a lot of auto marking and AI that goes along with the way that LinguaSkill is scored. And this has a lot of benefits to us and a lot of benefits that we've experienced during this pandemic and this global crisis. The questions can adapt to the learner ability, which I think is very important because it can reduce the amount of time that the test is taken, and it can reduce some learner anxiety because you don't feel like, oh my gosh, it keeps on getting harder and harder. It feels like the test is adapting to you, and it just makes it a more rewarding and successful feeling experience. It also allows us quick turnaround of test results and automated feedback. It comes with this AI and the auto marking with it, but also a lot of flexibility, the ability to take it in an exam center. We've also been able to offer remote proctoring with it. What I want to point out, though, is that these are technological enhancements, and they have helped us deliver a lot of things, including with IELTS, which is co-owned by Cambridge, British Council, and IDP, offering this flexibility to take it computer-based or paper-based. This has been important to us, but it's just an enhancement. Auto marking in AI doesn't replace the human element. I put at the bottom of the slide the Cambridge English hybrid marking model because I just wanted to point out that there's still human intervention. It's not a replacement of what humans do. It's an enhancement. So the way the auto marking works, I only have 10 minutes. I don't have a lot of time to go into the full technology. But there's a wonderful article that was published in Research Notes kind of about how Cambridge has evolved computer adaptive testing and what we, our philosophy behind it, how we put it into practice. And for those of you who are really interested, there's a website there that you can come back and look at the video and look at it to see the research and the theory behind it. But what I think is even more exciting, and it is one of the only Bahasa Indonesian words that I know, it's gratis. If you like the word gratis, can I get you to type gratis in the chat box? I just want to see if anybody else likes the word gratis besides me. Yeah, there we go. I say from theory to practice because auto marking in AI only works if we can get data to feed into the auto marker. And the way that we've done that is something that we can now share with teachers so that you can use it in your classrooms if you like. Now, we have two things that I want to share with you right now. One of them is called Write and Improve, and it's just writeandimprove.com. And we're also developing Speak and Improve, which is still under kind of a research beta. But the thing about Write and Improve and Speak and Improve, if you want to see auto marking and the feedback, the instant feedback in action, but how it doesn't replace the human marker, but augments and enhances what we can do, you can sign up and use parts of Write and Improve and Speak and Improve with your learners absolutely free so that you can see this innovation in action. So that's one of the things. I see that gratis is Dutch, yes, but it's still a word that when I see it in Indonesia, my eyes go straight to it. So thank you, Andy, for that. The other thing that I would say, though, is let's not get stuck just on the technological enhancements. What I think we have to remember is that a lot of the innovations that we're getting these days are not just about bringing in technology, but how we can integrate learning and assessment. And I think that one of the things that's come out quite recently, I'd say in the past 3 or 4 years, maybe even 5 with Cambridge University Press Assessment, is this idea of a learning-oriented assessment approach. And you see our good old friend, the Common European Framework of Reference on the right-hand side and how it relates to exams. But what we've really been trying to do that I think is innovative is find better ways to make sure that we are integrating the learning and assessment in what we call a learning-oriented assessment approach. We know that washback is going to happen whenever an exam is being taken. So how can we make that positive washback? In other words, how can we have a positive impact by the design of the exam? So we've been working very much throughout everything that we do on a systemic approach to bring together formative, summative, formal, and informal assessment by design, not by accident, so that it doesn't feel like we just do teaching, 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 then testing, 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 but that we can mix it all together. Because at the end of the day, teaching and exams serve the same purpose, and that is to help our learners succeed. And what I want to point out, if you remember nothing else from me or what Cambridge stands for, it is that the learner, not the technology, is at the heart of what we do. So innovation should always be learner forward, not technology forward. And that's what we've tried to do. What does it look like in practice? Well, to give you some examples, it can be in something like our course book or our course called Prepare, which is for secondary level learners. But what you can see on the left-hand side is a traditional, paperback course book. We also could do it in an ebook. We have ebooks for this as well. But what I really want to point out is that the right-hand side that's kind of highlighted in red, there's a part called Prepare for the Exam. And this little small design detail makes a huge difference because this part of the book is not just a reading exercise and it's not just exam prep. It brings in the context of the reading into questions that are not similar to what's on the exam, that are exactly like what students would see on the exam at this level for the CEFR. And so again, it's bringing in authentic test practice, but not as an extra. It's integrated into the learning so that, again, we can reduce learner anxiety towards exams and help them be as successful as they can be. Also, we've incorporated something new called Test and Train, which is a very mobile forward way to get extra test practice, not just exam simulation, but test practice and tips. And again, some of that instant feedback we were talking about, so that students can, on their mobile devices, get what they need to, really prepare to the best of their ability for the exams, making sure that what we teach and what we test matches at the same time for fairness, for practicality. That, to me, is a great innovation. Another way that we put this into practice, an example is with our course book Empower. Small things make a big difference. For example, with the unit structure of Empower, we have an opener, and then we have A and B lessons, which are grammar and vocabulary, and then we have lesson C. But when you teach with Empower, by design, we've put the unit progress test, which, by the way, can be taken digitally through on your mobile device or through the CLMS, our learning management system, or we have paper-based options for a lower tech. But the whole point of integrating learning and assessment together is the unit progress test comes after lesson C. That is not the last lesson of the unit, because we want to give teachers data. We want to see how students have done on that progress test. And lesson D is an integrated skills lesson, so that if our students did really poorly on the progress test, we have time to reteach. If the students did really well on the test, we have time to extend the lesson. We can make decisions based on how the students did, because that's what assessment really is about. It's about gathering data so we can make decisions that best help our learners. So just moving the progress test there and then having another lesson after it, so that testing isn't about prove to me you learned it, but testing is part of the learning process. The other thing that I think that we're doing that's very innovative is bringing teachers along in the process. I know that the Professional Learning and Development Teacher Development Day was yesterday, but I really want to say, you know, we're really putting a lot of effort into our purposeful professional learning and development. We have qualifications and programs, both in a self-study and tutor-led mode for teachers on various aspects, whether it's teaching systems or skills or assessment literacy. We have some programs like, you know, the Delta, which is very long. We have some programs which are 2-hour self-study online workshops. So even that micro type, we have lots of options. We have frameworks and assessment tools. But what I really wanted to point out for you, again, for your own development, if you're a teacher, is this website, this www.cambridge.org/PDP. This is a free professional development tracker that we have for teachers so that you can self-assess what your needs as a teacher might be, you know, to help guide you with what areas in your teaching do you need development in. Because one of the things about development that makes it so crucial is being able to reflect on what you need to know, but how do you know what you don't know? The professional development tracker is there for that. And then what about the future? What innovations do we have in the future of assessment? I'm not exactly sure, but if you want to get some sneak previews, here are a couple of, again, things that you can investigate. On the right, Quiz Your English app. You can get this from the Android or the Apple iTunes store, whatever it's called, the App Store now. It's a free collaborative game playing English quiz app. Again, you can download it for learners right now so that you can compete head to head with some English knowledge. And on the left, something that's brand new and really exciting, Minecraft. You know, how can we use Minecraft for teaching, education? Who knows, maybe in the future, even Minecraft for assessment. We partnered with Microsoft here, and if you go to cambridgeenglish.org/English-adventures, you can find out more about it there. Again, I only had 10 minutes, so I couldn't tell you everything, but if you have more questions, I'd really encourage you to contact not me, but Yusuf Sedo. And Mr. Yusuf Sedo is our country manager for Indonesia. He's got a full team. He also works with Sonia Tobing, who is from the assessment side, who also is ready to help you with anything, questions that you might have. We just put Yusuf's name on here because we wanted one direct email contact for you in case you needed it. But if you have any questions or want to know more, please contact Yusuf in English or Indonesian. He's great in both. And that is my presentation. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Alan. Wonderful to get the enthusiasm from the teachers as well. Next, we have Stuart Connor, the Director of English Assessment, Asia, Pearson, to present what Pearson has been doing in terms of innovation in English assessment. Stuart, over to you. Oh,
Hi.
you're also wearing a batik. Is that batik?
Do you know, this is the nearest thing I had to a batik. I don't know.
Okay.
I can't honestly say it is one, but
much appreciated. All right, time is yours.
Okay, hi everybody. Thanks for listening. Thanks for tuning in wherever you are. As it happens, I'm Stuart, and I'm based in Tokyo, Japan. And in this 10-minute session, I'm going to first blow this up a little bit so you can see it. Hopefully you can all see that. In this 10-minute session, I'm going to share a little bit about some of the things that we've been involved with in Indonesia over the last 12, 18 months. The projects that use technology, they do include exams and assessment, but they go beyond that to take in the whole learning ecosystem. So we're talking about whole school, whole institution solutions approach to English learning and assessment. But I'm going to start first by sort of setting context. And the context I'm talking about is employability. And employability is something that's very much at the heart of what Pearson's thinking about in terms of how we help people to improve in their lives through learning. And it's something that we have done a lot of research externally about to sort of find out what employers are thinking about this as well. So what I want to do is start by sharing some of that research with you and think about that in the context that we're living in, this context of enormous change, of technological transformation, and how it's changing the way that we live and the way that we work and the way that we learn. So what are employers saying? Well, they're saying that the biggest threats are not the technological change that we're seeing. It's not competitor activity. It's actually accessing the right people with the right skills. And when we talk about the right skills, what are the key skills that they are saying that they've got this high demand for and this short supply in? Well, yes, there are technical skills. And I guess the thing with technical skills is they sort of come and go as the technology and the industry evolves. There is a big need around digital fluency, of course, but digital fluency is quite easy to measure. The biggest, most consistent gap they talk about is 21st century skills. So these are the soft skills. These are the human skills like creativity and collaboration and critical thinking. And then within that, what are the most critical employability skills that people are talking about? And what you see here is that it's communication. Communication comes up time and time again. So it's this idea of effective communication that I really want to cover in this session today. So what I want to show you is that when we're thinking about employability skills, English actually underpins all of those competencies. They can all funnel through the process of language acquisition. They're developed and they're enhanced in the process of language acquisition. So you think about the skills that are needed to learn and master a language: self-discipline, right? Time management, resilience. Think about social interaction and the importance that plays in learning a language. You know, you need at least two people to communicate. And then you've also got those unspoken communication. It's not enough to just understand what is said, but do you understand what has not been said? So cultural awareness, empathy, decoding those non-verbal signs, that all comes into play in the language learning process. Of course, it doesn't have to be English, but English is the language of business and the internet, does allow you to scale up the impact of the skills that people need to become employable. And it's not going to solve all your employability problems. You know, we're saying language is a necessary condition, but not a sufficient condition, which is a way of saying, you know, English on its own will not get you a job and make you employable, but the process of learning English language makes you more likely to be employable because you've learned all these other great skills that are in high demand in the language learning process. Okay, so the wonderful thing about this, when we think about what does it mean for learning, how do we put this in the classroom, how do we put this in the university, is technology has kind of totally changed the way that we approach this. We can do it in a much more integrated, systematic and scalable way. So if you look at that sort of learning journey, right? Placement, setting goals, understanding needs, understanding motivations, setting metrics and targets over time, running through the learning process and, you know, constantly measuring and summative assessment, and then celebrating achievement, you know, of learning goals at the end of that process. You know, this doesn't need digital. This is just kind of common sense, but digital completely changes the way that we can influence and accelerate the learning journey. The power, and I think Alan talked about this, the power of assessment to give us immediate diagnostics, data that you can use to make smarter decisions about how you understand the learning needs, where they are in their journey, and what they need to do next to improve. So this kind of concept is something that we've taken forward at Pearson, and this is our approach to learning ecosystems. So what I want to do now is show you how we've put this into practice with specific schools and colleges in Indonesia. So I'm going to have a go at pronouncing this one. I'm probably going to mess it up. Maithru Yowera School, which some of you will know is in Sumatra. They had a particular need as they internationalized their program, particularly in their upper school. They had a need to set benchmarks around language acquisition for streaming people onto the right programs and for supporting them so that they're ready to take, you know, internationalized exams and so forth towards the end of their learning journey. So we worked with them. We started off understanding what those goals were. We actually started off with teachers. So we baselined the teachers first, understand what their learning needs are and what their current levels of English were. Then we looked at the kind of support that they would need in terms of professional development. And then we've set up a framework so that we can deliver that professional development online, matched by our courseware, and at the right times to measure progress against those courses, but also against those target metrics they've set themselves for achievement. We did the same thing with the learner base. So we've kind of baselined the initial student population as well to understand exactly where they are right now, to understand where they would need to be to succeed in an English language international program where they're learning maths and science and so forth in an English first environment. And then configure the right learning pathway for those students to get them from where they are today to where they need to be tomorrow. As you can see, that started this year, and we baselined the students at grade 10 and set metrics for where they need to be into next year. We're rolling this out for the whole school across primary through to upper secondary, which is over 1,000 students. But this is an integrated solution. So all of the different component pieces here are speaking to their LMS, they're speaking to each other, and they're using a common framework. So obviously CEFAR is, you know, the first indicator we have, but we need to see beyond CEFAR. We need to extend that so we can see at a more granular level how people are doing and what they need. And we use something called the global scale of English to do that and to scaffold the entire program. Similar example now is with this university called Unparat, which you probably know is in Bandung. And similarly, they had goals around raising the overall quality of English in the system. They are looking at how they screen, because it's a very popular university. It's one of the largest private universities in that region. How do they screen people onto the right programs, both into minimum standards of entry for English, but also then once they're in, do they need English training? Do they not need English training? If they do need training, do they need to go into beginner classes, intermediate classes? Is it academic writing skills they need? Is it communication skills they need to focus on? So we baseline the population and we screen for enrollment. So we actually integrated this system into their recruitment workflow as well, not just their teaching LMS. We use a fully online adaptive online English program to support their teaching, especially remote and through homework assignments. It's great because it's got a hell of a lot of content. So whether they are interested in TOEFL preparation, or whether they're interested in academic writing, or whether they're interested in career pathways to nursing or hospitality industry, whatever it might be, there's 24,000 lessons in there that can all adapt to whatever the stated needs and goals are of those learners. Again, we set up course agnostic measurements yes, we can measure in the course how they're doing, but we want to know, can they actually put it into practice outside of the learning program? So we use something called benchmark test to do that. And then finally, for learners who are exiting the program and they're thinking about work, they need a credential that is understood, used widely by corporations around the world to certificate against language proficiencies, particularly communicative language proficiency. That's the Versant test. It's used by companies like Amazon, by Deloitte. It's used by governments around the world to measure communicative proficiency for language. So really interesting. We've had over 7,000 learners so far go through the screening process into UNPA, and then placing them into the right courses. And now we're rolling out Pearson Online English to all of those learners who we've identified as being below the threshold level. So that's all I've got time for. You can hyperlink on, when we share the slides, you can hyperlink onto each of these product descriptions for level or benchmark or Versant to find out more. But obviously you can contact me, my colleague Prasasti Imani, some of you will know, is on the call, as is Jason Paulim. I can share those details separately. And I'd love to hear from you if there's anything you need around integrated English language solutions that are plug and play. We'd be delighted to work with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Stuart. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the second session of today, and we do not have time for Q&A from these three panelists today, but I would like to thank the speakers. Can I bring all of them back toward just for say thank you to Alan and James and also Stuart. So thank you so much. That concludes the second session of today and the last session of the entire UK-Indonesia English Partnership Series. Thank you so much, speakers. And thank you to the participants. We still have 163 attendees who are still with us until the end, and also to all of you who are following live on YouTube. Now, to end this three-day event, I would like to invite Hugh Moffat, British Council Indonesia Country Director, to give his closing remarks. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Hugh Moffat.
Selamat siang, sore, everyone. Hello, my name's Hugh. Thank you very much, Francis, for the introduction. I thought I'd better put, I've heard the chat about the batik. I better get my one batik shirt that I have on.
Excellent.
I'm back here in Indonesia. If you have any recommendations, please do let me know where I should go. But there we go. Thank you very much for that. And thank you to everybody for today. Thank you for joining day 3 of this UK-Indonesia Partnership Series, jointly organised by the British Council and DIT. It's been fantastic to have so many people over the 3 days. In day 1, we had our international education champion, so Steve Smith. His role is to increase the connections between the UK and Indonesia in education, and English is absolutely critical to that. It's one of our 3 key areas: education, English, and arts. These are the 3 things that we connect Indonesia and the UK. So it's absolutely central to what we do. He joined us, but more importantly for us is the fact that we had from Kemdikbud, from the Ministry of Education, the Director General, Bapak Iwan Syarihil, the Teacher Professional Development joining. And I think that connection between the two, how do we collectively as the UK support Indonesia in improving the quality of English and building the connections between our 2 countries, it couldn't be better. So we've had a brilliant few days, and the connections and discussions on professional development resources and innovation has been fantastic. And we're very excited yesterday with Colm, of course, to launch our new UK-ID Digital Innovation Grants. And we're really looking forward to seeing the applications for English teachers in Indonesia at both school and university level. And the point here, I think, is that there's a lot we've heard, so much already going on, but there is still very specific needs that need to be identified. And we're still in this environment where we're all digital. And as you can see in the chat, there are still solutions out there that are needed. So we hope these grants will add to the amazing array of stuff. Thanks to all the UK and Indonesian speakers today and the last 3 days for sharing your experiences and your expertise in remote teaching. training and innovation, and that has been a really fantastic thing. We hope to keep this connection, because of course we're virtual. One day let's hope to try and get face to face. Wouldn't that be nice? I do remember the old days of ELT conferences where we had people together. But thanks to you also, all of you from around the country, from the different islands of Indonesia, for watching, and especially those English teachers all working at home or trying to work from home in Indonesia, or perhaps you're face to face too now. Many thanks for making that effort, and we hope that this has been helpful for you. Just to say again to ITEL, thank you too for hosting this event, being a great partner for us over so many years, and of course to our brilliant moderator Francis, who did such a cracking job. But lastly, I need to really recognize my best colleagues. I've been lucky to be working here in Indonesia with Colm, with Maria, Adi, Nando, our English team, who have been brilliant to bring this together. James, of course, from our teaching centre, everybody who there represents the British Council and is there to support English in Indonesia, backed up by our fabulous Afra from Com. So thank you to everybody who's made this such a success. Happy World Teachers Day next Tuesday. You deserve it. You have been on the front line in this very difficult time. So I hope that we are now seeing the light, and soon we can get back together. Back to you, Francis. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Hugh. So ladies and gentlemen, that's it. UK-Indonesia English Partnership Series. We come to the end, and as Hugh mentioned, Happy World Teachers Day. I would like to remind that there are future webinar series, 4 webinars in celebrating the World Teachers Day. So I believe all have learned many new things, participants, speakers as well. I know I did. New ways to train teachers, new ways to teach English, and also innovations in assessment. As the theme is to work together on enhancing ELT capacity in Indonesia, let's work together between Indonesia and the UK. We're doing this together, we're learning together. And if you want to keep learning, please stay for the closing video. Make sure you check the information about all the events, the coming events for teachers, the webinars, and also 2 MOOCs, and of course, British Council and ITEL webinar series starting in October. So please stay for the closing video. And finally, it's time for me to say goodbye. Thank you so much for joining this event. It's been a pleasure moderating the session, and I would like to invite you to stay for the closing video. Let's continue learning, enhancing ELT capacity in Indonesia.